Okay, so this is big. Earlier today, CDPR announced that they are in fact working on a totally new game, and with that, a totally new Witcher game, explicitly saying, we're happy to announce that the next installment in the Witcher series of video games is currently in development, kicking off a new saga for the franchise, and sharing this image of a medallion in the snow to go along with it. I know though, there's a ton to break down on that statement and that image alone. They also released a huge press release detailing a variety of other changes coming to the company overall that are actually quite massive, and in some regard even bigger than this game announcement, including a totally new partnership with Epic Games. So in this video, I'm going to break all of this down. I encourage you guys to get subscribed. I actually have a lot of other content on CDPR and more Cyberpunk focused coming in the next couple of weeks, but I have a feeling there's going to be more to break down around this new Witcher game and evolving CDPR situation also. But first off, looking at the new game side of this, the new tweet and the website article they put up. If you can actually see it, because immediately after tweeting this out and posting the link in the description of the tweet, many people couldn't actually access the website. It seemed to crash almost immediately. But the wording here does seem to suggest something pretty clear. That being a new saga for The Witcher, as well as the medallion being different, heavily suggests that this is no longer going to follow the story of the previous protagonist of the Witcher games, and as a result, perhaps may not even be called The Witcher 4, but something else entirely. And CDPR even kind of comments on this in their press release. The teaser image for the new game features a medallion, accompanied by the phrase, "A new saga begins." Beyond that initial confirmation of a new saga in the Witcher franchise, no further details such as development timeframe or release date were provided, which seems to be CDPR themselves making it pretty clear this isn't Geralt. In the Witcher lore, the medallion that the Witcher actually wears is meant to be representative of the school that Witcher comes from. Geralt has the Wolf School medallion, which looks completely different from this one, and seems to be the clear indication that it's not actually him. And in fact, this medallion in general looks pretty different than most, if not all, of the ones we've seen thus far. If you look at the other medallions or the other existing and notable schools that have been established, none are an exact match, or even a close match for that matter. To me, it honestly does look like a cat. There is a school of the cat, but it's not this school of the cat. And specifically, I would actually say this looks like a Lynx medallion to me. Now, I'm sure there's going to be very intense 20-minute plus breakdowns and paragraphs upon paragraphs posted online around what this actually is, and I'm definitely not the right person to be doing that. But either way, I think the main takeaway here is that a new Witcher game is being worked on, and it is going to be following a new protagonist in the same universe, but perhaps a different location following different people. And overall, this announcement is actually not surprising at all. There have been a lot of people curious as to how far out this game will be, and although we have no idea, we do have a pretty good idea that CDPR has been working on this for at least a little while now. Almost exactly a year ago, they announced how they'd be shifting towards this production style of Red 2.0, which they described how ultimately enables it, aka CDPR, starting in 2022 to work on multiple AAA games and expansions in parallel. So right now, they've been working on the new Witcher game and Cyberpunk 2077's first expansion in parallel for some time. We can actually see in the last other projects section of this graph that they've been sharing periodically with their earnings calls that the other projects section grew quite substantially in the first half of 2021 after the release of Cyberpunk 2077. Seems like a safe bet that it was a lot of people moving from Cyberpunk to this new project, which could be the new Witcher game itself, or it could actually be development on the engine now, since that's a thing, but we'll get more into that in a moment. Although the team size did say the same for the latter half of 2021, at least up until September. That's a tease about the game, but there's definitely a lot more going on here. They also reveal how this is an exciting moment as we're moving from Red Engine to Unreal Engine 5, beginning a multi-year strategic partnership with Epic Games, who covers not only licensing, but technical development of Unreal Engine 5, as well as potential future versions of Unreal Engine. We'll closely collaborate with Epic Games developers, with the primary goal being to help tailor the engine for open world experiences. And before you get too worried by seeing CDPR and Epic Games in the same sentence, they have confirmed, or at least somewhat confirmed on Twitter, that we are not planning on making this game exclusive to one storefront. So hopefully this game will not be an Epic Games exclusive. Although the word planning there is getting some people a bit nervous, my takeaway is that this will likely, if anything, be actually an exclusive on two storefronts for PC players, both on Epic Games and done GOG. CDPR literally has their own storefront, so it wouldn't make sense to just abandon that when they get all the revenues from that. But I would say this move from Red Engine is actually pretty interesting and going to be fairly substantial. Doesn't seem like this is just a one game agreement, but rather this is CDPR moving forward. If they go on to make Cyberpunk 2078, I'm assuming that'll also be on Unreal Engine. They're literally developing parts of that engine, so they're probably going to stick with it for a long time now. They've actually been using Red Engine since The Witcher 2, and their two most popular games ever with The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk are Red Engine games. There was a ton of rumors during the development of Cyberpunk 2077 that CDPR was having many issues with Red Engine, so that could explain somewhat this shift or this larger agreement. But overall, this is likely going to create a scenario where when you actually jump into the next game, it'll just feel a certain degree of different. Like obviously there's always going to be differences on new games, but with it being a completely new engine, I'm sure a lot of things will just function slightly different than they did in The Witcher 3. No, Unreal Engine is incredibly versatile, so it's not like they have to do that, but I imagine some of these systems or compromises they had to make previously, they may no longer have to make going forward. But even further, it does seem like CDPR is actually working for Epic Games here, developing the engine itself to better support open world games going forward. And they regard how this may not only occur with Unreal Engine 5, which is the current one, but may continue to future engines. So they may continue working on Unreal Engine with Unreal Engine 6, or who knows, maybe they're already working on Unreal Engine 6, depending on how the timelines work here. This is also pretty interesting when you look back at Red 2.0, because this means that they are having this parallel development, but actually switching. So you're going to have some people working on Red Engine with Cyberpunk, but then switching over to Unreal Engine 5 with the next Witcher title. Seems like that could create a pretty interesting situation internally with these devs. Although Unreal Engine, of course, is incredibly popular and many people already are familiar with this, but for veteran devs at CDPR, there's almost certainly going to be a degree of a learning curve because they may have been working on Red Engine for the past decade. To finish off their press release with this, though, they actually do have quotes from the CTO of CDPR as well as the CEO of Epic Games. The CDPR CTO does say, "One of the core aspects of our internal Red 2.0 transformation is a much stronger focus on technology, and our cooperation with Epic Games is based on this principle. From the outset, we did not consider a typical licensing agreement. Both we and Epic see this as a long-term, fulfilling tech partnership. It is vital for CD Projekt Red to have the technical direction of our next game decided from the earliest possible phase in. In the past, we spent a lot of resources and energy to evolve and adapt Red Engine with every subsequent game release. This cooperation is so exciting because it will elevate development predictability and efficiency while simultaneously granting us access to cutting-edge game development tools. I can't wait for the great games we're going to create using Unreal Engine 5. Okay, towards the end there, it literally just started to sound like an ad for Unreal Engine. I think this quote could suggest a few things. Perhaps one of the reasons this partnership or agreement was pursued by CDPR is there were development difficulties when adapting Red Engine for Cyberpunk. But even further, how they mentioned that they are getting in early on engine development, I have to imagine this next Witcher game is pretty far out. I wouldn't expect this to be coming in the next couple of years, but likely much further than that. And to me, overall, it does seem like this is a mutually beneficial partnership. Even if you may not agree with it, I could see why this is good from both CDPR and Epic Games' perspective. CDPR is getting what they may consider to be a better and more flexible engine. Perhaps this started as them just actually wanting to use Unreal Engine in general to move away from Red Engine. So you get a better engine, but on top of that, since they are actually developing the engine, they're actually getting some money from Epic Games as a result. They kind of have a new job in engine development in a sense, but not completely, considering they were already upgrading and developing Red Engine. But then on the side of Epic, you have what are one of the best open world game studios in the world. Obviously both Rockstar and Bethesda are probably considered better, but CDPR is still up there as one of the best, actively developing your engine, which is a significant profit source for Epic Games. They're not only going to be basically advertising it by using it for their highly anticipated next game, but also just upgrading it for you. Of course, this is going to cost you money, but Epic has the money to spare, and they've definitely been spending a lot of it as of late. And then also a quote from the CEO of Epic, Tim Sweeney. Epic has been building Unreal Engine 5 to enable teams to create dynamic open worlds at an unprecedented scale and level of fidelity. We are deeply honored by the opportunity to partner with CD Projekt Red to push the limits of interactive storytelling and gameplay together, and this effort it will benefit the developer community for years to come. So now as far as my overall takeaway on this one, it's definitely exciting. A new Witcher game finally getting confirmed. It was basically confirmed. I think basically everyone thought this is what they were working on, and even in some earnings calls, it was heavily alluded to. The Epic Games partnership is more surprising, and I think this could be one of those things that could be great or not great. Switching away from a proprietary engine can be hard, especially when you have a lot of people who have been spending a lot of time learning, working on, and developing on that engine. But at the same time, if some of these rumors were true that CDPR was having a ton of problems with Red Engine, this could be great for them. It could actually alleviate some of those issues with future game development, and obviously over time, as they continue to work more and more on this engine and actually develop it themselves, that being Unreal Engine 5, they're only going to get better with it, and this could be great in the long term of the company. And I would say overall, it's one of those situations where it's not really clear right now if this is great news or not great news. We'll really just have to wait and see, and we'll probably be waiting a pretty long time. The next major news will likely be around Cyberpunk expansions, which we still have no idea when that's coming. Even further, of course, we know that The Witcher as well as Cyberpunk are getting multiplayer support. How that whole situation evolves and develops is also coming before we find out more about Unreal Engine 5 and the next Witcher game. But those are my thoughts. I'd definitely love to hear from all of you in the comments down below. What do you think about this new partnership? What do you think about this new game, them taking The Witcher in a different direction away from the previous protagonist? But as always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all later.